Hey, I'm Frank Schaeffer. You know, back in the 70s and 80s, I was a religious right leader, knew all the Republican leaders from Bill Buckley to Jack Kemp, got notes from Ronald Reagan, helped introduce him on the stage of the Religious Broadcasters Convention, and I dropped out of the religious right in the 90s when they just turned into a party of rejection and hate with the gay bashing and anti-women stance and all the rest of it. I changed my views, I changed my faith, but what stuns me is I never saw how far this would go. And of course his name is Donald Trump, and I've talked about this before, but I want to add something. Look, today President Barack Obama, one of the best presidents this country's ever had, who saved our country from George W. Bush's destruction of our economy and all the rest of it, nominated a very reasonable man to the Supreme Court and faces utter rejection from the Republicans, who are just the party of no when it comes to anything that our first African American wants to do. And this is just straight out racism. This is a white oligarchy hanging on to power. But I want to offer a word of caution to that white power group that runs the Senate and Congress. Your days are numbered. And I'll tell you why. Because Donald Trump, who is your candidate, you may hate him, but he's yours. You created this climate of obstruction and rejection and fear, has just threatened violence if he is not nominated as the Republican candidate. He said there will be riots. He said, oh, I won't lead them, but there's going to be riots, things you've never seen before, terrible things. He's promising violence and threatening it in an oblique way, very much like he said, oh, well, I'd never heard of the KKK or David Duke, and then he kind of remembered, but he was really sending a coded message. And he's sending a message saying, if I'm not the nominee, go into the streets and riot. This is your guy, but you're the same, because you're rejecting Obama's nomination. You are rejecting our form of government, just as he is subtly, not so subtly, predicting violence if he's not the man. Now imagine when he crashes and burns in the general election, which he will. You Republicans are going to be destroyed in November. And you're going to lose the Senate, and you may lose the House, and we certainly are going to see a Democrat for president. This man is not going to take it lying down, and there will be violence. But it's no more violent than what you are doing right now in the Senate by saying you won't even talk to our first black president's nominee. You too are playing outside the lines. You too are rejecting our American way of collaboration and working together. It's a scandal. His call for violence is the crude fascist scandal that we've come to understand with this guy who says he'll punch people in the mouth who disagree with him, or he wishes he could, and pay the legal fees of people who commit violence in his campaign rallies. But you guys in the Congress, some of you who I knew back in the day, are just as scandalous. And you say, oh, we don't like Donald Trump. Well, he's your man. And what you're doing to President Obama in your final act of disrespect after 7.5 years of lying about our president, this act of disrespect of not even talking to his nominee is just one more thing, but it fits with what Donald Trump is doing, predicting violence. You are both rejecting the American way of government. And you are going to rue the day. You're going to lose it all. You're an ugly group of people. Thanks. This is Frank Schaeffer.